Hello to everyone once again. Welcome to this podcast. Where are the women? Conversations about women in the music industry. I'm Sandra. In the last episode, we started talking about copyrights with Kaitlin, and today we have her again. I'm so happy for that. So, once again, welcome, Kaitlin.
Thank you, Sandra. Quite happy to be back for part two.
Amazing. So, do we want to do a recap for last time? Um, a summary? Yeah.
A little brief recap? Sure. So, as I mentioned in episode one, I'm Kaitlin. I am an Aussie living in London, been here for 2 years, legal background, transitioning into the music industry to support emerging artists navigate the music business. Ideally, women as well. I think building this community is so important to empower women to be, I guess, across the music industry in a way that empowers them to make informed decisions and own their music and distribute it in a way that aligns with their personal goals. So we did cover briefly the copyrights in the music. So the composition copyright, the lyrics and the melody, but also the recording copyright. The difference between publishers and labels, and that publishers deal with the composition copyright, labels deal with the master or the recording copyright. We also briefly touched on some artist stories like Taylor Swift and JoJo. And I guess talking about artist priorities as far as what's important for you when it comes to ownership and exploiting your music to earn money and build a sustainable career. So that I think is a pretty good recap of episode one.
Perfect. Thank you. So, if you're new to this podcast, you can see the first episode to see we talk about publishers, record labels, some examples about how to own your master. And yeah, you can go to that episode and see all the advices from Kaitlin. So, here in this episode, we are going to talk about royalties.
Also very important.
Oh, so very important. Yeah. Now that we know what are copyrights, then how we can exploit them. So, what are the different types of royalties?
So I think it's probably easier to categorize them into three core buckets. So, shall we call them? So, there are performance royalties, which are generated when music is played on radio or performed live in a gig, when it's played in public. So, in shops or restaurants, for example. And also, performance royalties are also generated when music is streamed. So, one of the second of the three core buckets is mechanical royalties. So, mechanical royalties are generated when music is streamed, when music is downloaded, and also when music is sold by way of CD or vinyl. And mechanical royalties are also triggered when someone else records a cover of your song. So then the third type of royalty of the core three, I would say, is synchronization fees. So separate to performance and mechanical royalties, sync is essentially when music is used or paired with visual media, whether that is film, TV, advertising, or gaming. And that is usually a one-off upfront fee for that particular song to be used in that context. So royalties are basically just different ways that your copyright earns money depending on how your music is used.
Okay. And what organizations collect those royalties in the UK?
So the main ones to know are PRS for music, MCPS, which also comes under the PRS umbrella, and BPL. So these organizations exist so that artists don't have to chase payments globally. So when your music is distributed or streamed or downloaded overseas, these organizations handle your music within the UK and also outside the UK. And they collect and distribute royalties on your behalf.
Okay, and what are the roles, for example, for PRS of PRS?
For PRS, they collect performance royalties, and that really concerns songwriters and publishers. So the composition copyright, and generally covers royalties for streams, live shows, radio, and for public use.
So if I go to if I'm a musician and I perform in a bar or something, then PRS collect the royalties and then they pay me, or how?
So the mechanics of it all really
Okay.
is that, for example, like a live music venue or a shop, they all pay a license to
Okay.
PRS for the use of music within their venue. And when PRS receive these license fees from all of these venues and shops and so on, they then hold that money, basically, let's just say in a pot. But then if you go to one of these venues and perform a song, the venue has a responsibility, and I think as do you, to make sure that PRS receive a cue sheet or a set list to know what music is actually played at the venue. And then from those reporting sheets, PRS will then pay the royalties back to you.
Okay. And now let's continue to what is the role of MCPS?
So MCPS collects mechanical royalties. So that is the streaming, the digital downloads, and the physical sales, so CD or vinyl. So that also concerns songwriters and publishers. And I guess the way I like to think of it is it's mechanical, it's kind of digital, but it's also the physical sale of your music.
Okay. And what is the role of PPL?
PPL concerns master recording, so the royalties from that master. And that includes radio play, so when your recording is played over the radio, but also when your recording is played publicly. So that might be in a shop, for example. So that those funds are collected and then paid to the recording artists or the rights holders, which are usually the record label that funds the recording.
So, for example, if our radio plays your music, so it's also like the shop. They also pay a license.
Yep.
Okay, and then they pay this license to PPL, and then PPL pays you.
So when the song is played out, on the radio, for example, that radio station will provide a list of the music that is played on their station.
Mm-hmm.
And then PPL then go through those lists and make sure that the money is paid to the artists or the rights holders that own the recording in that music, and make sure that that's how they get paid.
Okay, perfect. And then we were talking about labels and publishers. So, what role do publishers and labels play in relation to royalties?
So, if you decide to sign up with a publisher, they generally deal with the administrative side of your composition rights, and also advocate, I guess, trying to sell your music and exploit your music, or the composition within the music. So the publishers handle the composition side. They register your songs with organizations like PRS and MCPS. They collect royalties globally. So the PRS and MCPS will generally pay the royalties to the publisher, and then they will keep their share depending on how your deal is arranged. They'll keep their share of the royalties and then pay your share to you. So they also pitch for sync as well. That was one of the other types of royalties. So essentially, a publisher will take a percentage of the royalties that are owed by way of exploitation of the composition for the administrative work that they do and the opportunities that they seek out for your music. And on the other hand, there's the labels, so the master side. So the labels will collect the income from streams, from sales, and from licensing. And generally, they will have invested in the recordings. So, setting up the studio, arranging the producer, all of that. And obviously the marketing and organizing for the CDs and the vinyls to be created and then sold and marketed. So they generally will recoup their investment first. So all the money that they put into the project, say they recoup that, and then based on the terms of the deal, they then allocate what's owing to the artist based on what they receive back from the royalties. So owning and managing these rights are two different things. But labels and publishers essentially help monetize your music.
Okay. I know it's not on the questions, but I want to ask you, how do you look for a publisher?
That's a great question. I think research is a great place to start, I guess. Speak to people within the community, get an understanding for who other artists might be signed with as a publisher. Different publishers often offer different terms as part of, whether it's just administrative or whether they do pitch for sync as well. And generally, the more involvement they have, the more royalties they will recoup from the work that they put in. But I think there's a lot of excellent publishers, large and small, that are around to assist artists by way of managing their rights and helping them exploit their music.
And normally, what are the terms with a publisher?
It varies. It really depends on, I guess, what you would like a publisher to do for you. And if you've got an idea of how involved you would like them to be, then you can go to them and propose that they, deal with XYZ, and you come to an arrangement on how those royalties are allocated.
Okay, but normally it's with percentage of the royalties?
Yes, generally. Yeah. Generally, it's between, say, the songwriters and the publisher. It's generally a 50-50 split as far as how those royalties are split once that pool comes to the publisher.
Okay. And what should emerging artists do to ensure they actually get paid their royalties?
Very important. So I think we touched on this in episode 1, but I think making sure your royalty splits are recorded and they're registered with the relevant royalty collecting society. So whether that's PRS or PBL, make sure that your splits are recorded, because if, for example, money is collected by way of your song being played on the radio, but those splits aren't recorded in PRS's system, the money has nowhere to go. So even if you have, say, a 50% share logged and a 40% share logged, but there's a missing 10%, PRS can't pay out that 50% and that 40% if there's a missing 10. You have to have the full 100% share allocated for that money to be paid. So it's really important to have that full 100% of the ownership recorded in the database.
Okay, amazing. And we always finish this podcast with a question.
Another question.
if you can give advice to women in the music industry, what would it be?
I think in this day and age, my next hot tip would be to build leverage before you enter into any deals. So, in the first episode, I said knowledge is power. But I think in this episode, I'm going to change things up a little bit and say leverage is power.
Okay.
And I think depending on how you like to, I guess, approach your creative marketing and how you like to engage with your fan base, I think building an identity and a brand around your music and around you as an artist is really like, I guess, the one-way ticket to building a fan base that's then going to encourage publishers and labels to come to the table and see the value in your music. And the more value you have, the better leverage you have. And ultimately, I think that comes with more negotiation power when you are trying to get the deal that you desire.
Okay, amazing advice. So thank you once again for being here in this podcast, Kaitlin.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this two-part series.
And yeah, as at the beginning we said, where are the women? And the women are here helping each other and building a success career. So see you in the next episode. And thank you once again to Kaitlin.
Thank you, Sandra.
So hello everyone and welcome